Naya. Welcome back to Naya Files. Hello everyone. It is currently the middle of November and I was gonna wait until the end to do a wrap up, but if you guys don't know, I will be one of the hosts for the Fall into Fantasy readathon that starts the 18th and goes until the 25th. Amazing, fun, just reading as many fantasy books as possible, and Penguin Teen is like the creator of the readathon, so you guys can go on their website to like check out more info about it. But because that readathon literally starts on Sunday, I wanted to do a wrap up before then to talk about the books that I've read this 2 weeks into November, I think we are in. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing my very first, I think, ever mid-month wrap-up. But before we get into all the amazing, oh my god, I'm so excited to talk about this series. I read a whole series, okay, like in a week. It was, okay, before we get into all of the juicy details of the books that I was reading / listening to, because I was listening to lots of audiobooks, this video is so kindly sponsored by Skillshare. You all know how much I love Skillshare. I've been working with them for a few months now, and I am just an avid user of their website and they're amazing. Anyone who doesn't know what Skillshare is, they're one of the largest online learning websites, online learning platforms for anyone who is interested in just like anything you can think of, from writing to graphic design to filmmaking to pretty much anything that falls into the arts, photography, just like anything, videography, anything you can think of. They have over 24,000 classes, professionally done videos taught by real teachers, real professors, all that kind of stuff. They're fantastic. I'm gonna link them down below. They were so kind to give me a code, so there'll be a link down below. The first 500 people to click and sign up will get a 2-month free trial, so definitely check it out. Anyways, so the books that I read four books. The last wrap up I did was in September, okay? Not October, September. It was the end of September, and the last book I read was, like I said, Vicious by V.E. Schwab. That book destroyed me. Like, okay, I don't know if this happens to like any of you guys, but when I read a really good book, it either pushes me to continue reading other good books after that, or, dare I say it, I was in denial, but I'm not in denial anymore. I fell into a reading slump, okay? After I read Vicious, it was so good, and I was thinking about it for like 4 or 5 days after I finished the book, and I was just like in the feels for that book, okay? After I read that book, like I just kind of yo-yo read, like where I go and pick up a book and read like 3 chapters, and then I'm like, I don't want to read this. And I did that for about like 6 or 7 books, and I just couldn't find anything I wanted to read. Nothing sounded good. Everything in comparison to Vicious just seemed to just fall short. But there's 2 main ways I get out of a reading slump. Number 1 is to go and reread like some of my favorite books, but that, like I said, it wasn't working. I tried. I was just falling harder into the slump. Number 2 is to jump on a new audiobook, which is what ended up getting me out of the slump and ended up leading me to discover one of my new favorite science fiction series of all time. Like number 1, like better than Illuminae, better than the Nemesis Files, better than everything. Anyway, so I was scrolling through Scribd, like trying to figure out what audiobook I wanted to listen to, and I saw this cover, and this cover has been floating around the Bookstagram forever, and I was like, the knife of never letting go. I had no idea what the book series was about, but I had seen so many people rave about it and just like post about it, so I was like, okay, I'll start this audiobook. I had no idea what genre it was. I thought it was just gonna be like a post-apocalypse / dystopian book, which it kind of was. It ended up being a sci-fi, like when I tell you there was a chapter, I think it was chapter like 6 or 7, where you realize it's a sci-fi book because something happens, and it literally blew my mind. I was like, wait, what? This is sci-fi? Like what the heck? I started reading the Chaos Walking series by Patrick Ness. The first book is The Knife of Never Letting Go. The second book is The Ask and the Answer, and I'm currently have 2 hours left of the last audiobook, and that is Monsters of Men, and I'm not ready to finish it because this book series is so good, you guys. One of the best audiobooks I have ever listened to in my life, and my number 1 favorite sci-fi book to this day. Okay, oh, also, before I get off track, it's gonna be turned into a movie with Tom Holland. I knew Tom Holland was filming a movie series called Chaos Walking, but I had no idea. It literally took me, my friend telling me this, that Chaos Walking is the name of the series. and The Knife of Never Letting Go is the first book in that series, and that's what Tom Holland's gonna be in, and I'm so excited for the adaptation because after listening to all the audiobooks, like literally he's the perfect character. But okay, what is this series about? I'm trying to think of what to tell you guys about it without spoiling, because like I said, I listened to the audiobooks back to back to back in the span of 1 week, and so they all just seem like one giant book to me. Like, does anybody else ever do that? But okay, so this series is about this place where there's only guys, and you find out why later on. But basically in this world, everyone can hear everyone else's thoughts, not just people, but animals. And it's just guys, not girls. Just guys can, like, they call it the noise, where they can see and like hear what other people are thinking, which is insane, right? Like how, like, what kind of world would that be? Yeah, you need to read the book to find out. But anyway, so yeah, animals as well, like dogs, cats, any sort of like mammal. You could also like see what the animal's thinking. So like animals kind of talk in this book or in this world, which is so cool. And because it is a sci-fi book, we have these characters that are living on a new world, and there's like a native species of people that live on this world that are the ones that created slash like they kind of describe the noise as like a sickness that gave the humans the sickness of being able to see each other's thoughts. That caused tons of problems because of course like people don't always say what they think, and that can just cause a lot of conflict. And yeah, and other thing too was like it was just guys, it wasn't girls, and so that created a whole other thing which becomes a huge part of the book. But anyways, that's all I'm gonna tell you about the book, because everything else just has to be a surprise, otherwise it's not exciting. And it's just, when I first started listening to this book, and I have to tell you guys, you absolutely have to listen to this book and not read it. It is one of the very few times you will ever hear me say that I think you should read the listen to the audiobook instead of reading it, because the narrator is so fantastic and it honestly changes the whole feel of the book. Like after I listened to the first book, The Knife of Never Letting Go, I then went and got the ebook of the second one and tried to read it, but it just wasn't the same because the narrator does a specific accent for each of the characters, and there's like music and sound effects, especially for when because like I said, people can hear each other's thoughts. So whenever someone is saying something in their head and it's not being said out loud, there's like a sound effect put on the noise of what someone's thinking, and it just enhances it. It feels like you're listening to a movie. Like that's the best way I can describe it. And so yeah, so for anyone who's tried to read this book or who is thinking of reading it, like listen to the audiobook, because it is so different from reading it, like a totally different experience. And when I first listened to it, it immediately reminded me of The Maze Runner, which I did the exact same thing with that series. All 3 books were out in that series when I first listened to it, and I just listened to the audiobooks back to back to back, and it's like the same sort of feeling, and it's very similar to The Maze Runner in that sense of like you're put into this new world and you have no idea what's going on, in every chapter you're finding out something new. But yeah, this whole series was incredible, and like the characters, oh my god, can we talk about the characters for a second? Like the arc of who the characters are in the first book and just how much they grow, because like I said, they're only like 13. We follow 2 main characters who I'm not gonna tell you who the second one is because that's a surprise. We're following this main character who's just like very naive, and like I said, he's like 13. He thinks he knows everything, and he just slowly throughout the whole series and all this crazy stuff that happens realizes that the world is so much bigger than he thinks it is, and that he doesn't know as much as he thinks he knows. If anything, he was kind of like isolated and told things that weren't exactly true. And like who the character is in the beginning of the book and who the character is now in the last book is just such, like, it has been a long time since I have read or listened to such an incredible character arc, not just for him but for every character in the book. And by the time you get to the last book, it's like you're so invested in the characters. Like, okay, out of all 3 books, I think the second one is my favorite one, only because in the first book, it's like you get attached to the characters, and by the end of the first book, you're like invested, like something happens to them and you're just like, what is going on? Anyways, yeah, I've been talking about this series forever, but yeah, the 3 books, oh my god, Chaos Walking series, I wish I picked it up sooner, but I'm glad I didn't buy the books. And like I said, I stumbled upon the audiobooks on Scribd because it was just incredible, and I'm not ready. Like I said, I have 2 hours left of the last book, and I've been putting it off because I don't want it to be over, but I'm gonna have to do it. I'm just gonna have to listen to it, but I don't want to. Last book that I read, and another book that I was just, oh my god, like I was so looking forward to this book, and I was really scared because it's one of my favorite authors that wrote this book, but it's totally different from the genres that she's normally written, so I was afraid like I wouldn't like it or it would just be too different for me. I have finally read A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahereh Mafi. If you don't know, Tahereh Mafi wrote the Shatter Me series, or the Juliet Chronicles it's technically called, as well as the Furthermore series, and this is her very first contemporary book. The books that I've read, like I said, the Shatter Me series, that one's definitely dystopian slash post-apocalypse, and it was incredible. And then Furthermore is like a middle grade fantasy book, and so this is very far outside of what she's written like thus far, but I was also very excited to see, because I don't usually like gravitate towards contemporary books, but Tahereh Mafi, if she's writing a contemporary book, I'm reading it. This book lived up to the hype and beyond. I read this book in one sitting. It's only like 300 or like 275 pages, I think, and it is so beautiful. This book was described by her as almost like a memoir. Like it's a fiction book, but it's so much of herself and her personal life and her experience are in this book that it's basically kind of like a chronicle of her experience in high school. It follows a 16-year-old Muslim girl living in a post 9/11 world. So after the terrorist attack that happened on 9/11, it's like 2 weeks after 9/11, our main character is having to live and go to school in this world that fears Muslim, living her day-to-day life, and this book describes her struggles and just how awful people are to her, and it's just, oh my god, it was just so, some scenes were really hard to read, but at the same time there is romance in this book, and I would almost say that this is also a romance book, because there is a romance that comes about, and it's so beautiful. Like I said, I think I said this in my book haul video when I was hauling this book, but it's both like heavy but at the same time lighthearted, and really funny too. Like there were so many scenes that were really funny. Our main character, she break dances and she's really into fashion, and just, oh my god, like she's really one of the coolest characters I have ever read. Literally every time I imagine the main character, I just imagine her looking like Tahereh Mafi, the author, which if you guys don't know what she looks like, Tahereh Mafi is so beautiful. I've like, go check out her Instagram page, because she is just so, she looks like she walked out of a high fashion magazine. The last sentence in this book, she wrote one of those last sentences that just really kills you, like that just like, ugh, it was incredible. And I feel like the book was too short, or actually it was the perfect length, but you definitely finished the book and was like, wow, like that, I read this so quick. Highly recommend it. And I like Tahereh Mafi's voice is so different in every genre that she writes, and I think that is so cool, because I don't know, I look up to Tahereh Mafi even more after this book, because she's just such a skilled and diverse author. And I don't mean diverse in like what she's writing about, but also mainly just like the genres. Like she's written dystopian, contemporary, middle grade. She hasn't kind of defined herself by one genre, and I don't know, I find that really inspiring, because I hope to write in multiple genres as well, in multiple age ranges. I don't know, I love Tahereh Mafi. She's continues to be one of my favorite authors, and I hope to meet her one day, so that she can sign my books and so I can just tell her how much I love them. Anyways, that is my mid-month wrap up. Now I am going to be preparing for the Fall into Fantasy readathon and setting up my TBR and getting that all sorted, but I'm happy the last book I read was a contemporary book, because now I'm just ready to go straight into fantasy. But yeah, so I will be vlogging the entire week, so it's gonna be really fun, and expect a ton of videos, because we're gonna just be on a fantasy roll, okay? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, keep reading, and I will talk to you guys later.